Good morning. And for all of you who have been praying for us, who were in Cambodia for 2 weeks, for those of you who financially supported our team members, I want to say a huge thank you. We had a whole whack of challenges, some of which we were not prepared for, but your prayers saw us through. Thank you very much, and thanks to the Lord. For those of you who don't know what we were doing, the 20 of us in Cambodia over the last 2 weeks, we got back Thursday evening, we were working with 20 other North Americans teaching at English Camp number 9. This is the 9th year they've been doing this. And it is a camp where Cambodian students, mostly secondary and university students, come to learn English. But a huge part of the camp is people sharing, Christians sharing their faith in Christ. Some of the students are Christians already. Some of them are Christians who have not really connected with churches because they're from out of town studying in Phnom Penh. And others are Buddhist or simply non-Christian students, but who come, they get involved in worship, and they learn about Christ, and they get a chance to interact with North American Christians who, we get to know on a one-to-one basis, and you're going to hear a lot about that in a moment. Now, Bill Labazu, who's the international worker that we have a connection with, a very specific connection with, and with whom we minister together, both here in Canada and there in Cambodia, runs the English camps. And one of the things he said in our final debriefing is, he says, people back in Canada and the United States, those Americans, are not going to fully understand what you have been through and how you have been changed. But, he said, be prepared to have just 2 sentences to explain what happened to you while you were there. And I'm going to call the team up, and they're going to share their 2 sentences with us. And you're going to learn a lot more about what happened in Cambodia. So first of all, I'm John Weir. Here we have Steve Kerr, Cindy Park, Elliot Park, Ron Bach, Jody Wolf, Melanie Horning, Alyssa Horning, Adriana Bielefeld, Tim Grunewagen, Wendy Grunewagen, Janet Mole, Marina Chasson, Carl Boll, Brian McKelvey, Jen Thompson, and Jackie Fleet. Unfortunately, in this service, some of our team is not able to be here. Caleb Sharp, Mark Miller, and Max Stacy can't be here today. But let's just go. Okay, Steve, your 2 sentences, please.
It was like no other mission trip I've been on. You got to immerse yourself both in the culture and to connect with the people more deeply than ever.
Cindy.
It was a breathtaking experience of immersion into the sights, the sounds, the smells, the food, the spirituality, the emotions, and the people of a culture so vastly different from my own. It goes beyond words, and if you have the chance to go, take it.
Elliot.
It was an unbelievable experience. I'd like to thank God for giving me the opportunity to meet all the amazing people, eat all the tasty food, and be submerged in a culture so different from our own.
And Ron.
Well, John, when I went over to Cambodia, I didn't go with the impression that I was going to change the world. But the purpose of the team was to bring the love of Jesus to the students as we were teaching them to speak English. And I saw that happening all over the place.
Jody.
I went to Cambodia to teach English. I didn't know I'd be attending a family reunion for Christ.
Melanie.
It was a life-enhancing opportunity for me, and it was the beginning of many really amazing relationships.
Alyssa.
It opened my eyes to so many new opportunities, and next time I go back, I want to go for so much longer.
Adriana.
It was an absolutely amazing experience, and I would go back the next chance I got.
Tim.
It was also an opportunity for me to pick the brains of the missionaries who were there about how they were called and how that eventuated. And the challenge I took away was to use my occupation and my family to pursue this further overseas.
Wendy.
It was an amazing experience. Bill told us before we left that we would fall in love with the students when we were there. I didn't really believe him, but we definitely did.
Janet.
It was a trip of a lifetime, and I was pulled and stretched and found strengths I didn't even know I had.
Marina.
It was an amazing and wonderful...
I just hit her in the face with the microphone.
It was an amazing and wonderful experience, and it exceeded all my expectations.
Carl.
I loved every moment, and everybody has to go for themselves.
Right. Brian.
Fabulous people. It stretched me way beyond my box. Great. Stupendo. Stupendo.
That was kind of more than 2 sentences. But okay, Jen.
I left a piece of my heart in Cambodia, and I hope to go back next year and find that.
And Jackie.
You're just going to leave another piece there if you do.
I'm supposed to hold the microphone, Jackie.
No, give me the microphone. Okay. My two sentences. One, I can't do this in 2 sentences. And 2, give me the mic. Thank you.
You win.
Thank you. Hi. I can't do this in 2 sentences, so I'm going to do it in a 12-slide presentation. Slide number 1. I can't see that thing from here. I'm going to sit in the middle. Yeah, that helps. Hi. So, this first slide here is my first sort of connecting moment with the Cambodian people. You'll see in the songbook we have Here I Am to Worship in Khmer and English. And ahead of the gentleman holding this book is the congregation singing, and way off in the distance, the worship team that I was blessed to be a part of. Standing up on the stage, I realized, probably actually realized for the first time, that God's first language is not English. And it was really the type of moment where I felt connected to these people, because music is such a universal language. And so, the different languages singing and all the different voices, and it was so loud. Everyone was just singing their hearts out. So this was sort of my first sort of wow moment of the entire trip. So next slide, we're moving backwards a little bit. The very first day that we got to Cambodia, and we woke up jet-lagged and emotional and missing our families, we took the joyous trip of going to the Genocide Museum. They were very nice to us. Like, here you go, you're tired, let's hit you with more stuff. I didn't include any pictures from the museum itself because it's extremely graphic and a very, very sobering experience. I picked this picture. This is Jen sitting under a tree. Almost everyone had to leave the buildings early. We couldn't go through the displays of torture devices and pictures and human bones for very long before we just had to get out. And so this is Jen taking a break under the tree, and we weren't too far behind her. The next slide is a family on a moto. This is one of the first shocking experiences for me. The fact that everyone rides around on these motos and that there are very little safety standards. Now, this isn't a shocking picture in the sense of, the volume of people on one, because we saw 7 people on a moto at once. But what this does for me is reminds me of the safety standards. The drivers are supposed to wear a helmet. And the fact that this child is barely holding on, standing between his parents, that's a regular thing that you see. Every moto that passes by has a child hanging on by a garment. And so this was sort of a big shocker, a good culture shock for me. The next slide is our first day of English camp. The format of English camp was that in the mornings we would get there. We would do a song and story time, which was worship time and testimonies and challenges. Yes, challenges. I forgot about that. Contest challenges and such. Bible story. And then we would go into an English lesson with our groups. And this is the first picture that I have of my group together, the group that blessed me so much. Little did I know in this picture that I would fall in love with every one of them. So this is our first afternoon trip, because after the mornings, we'd have lunch together, then we'd all go on like a field trip together. This is our first field trip to the Royal Palace, and it was just really fantastic and amazing, and this picture is special to me because it's my first one with all my kids. The next slide is actually day 3. On day 2, we ended up going to a water park, which you will hear plenty more about later. It's a very scary experience. This is a market that we went to as our day 3 sort of field trip challenge, was to run through the market with your group and get a scavenger list of items. You have to buy them as fast as you can and as cheap as you can. So we had $20 to buy several items on a list, and that's why we had our students with us, mostly because they are the locals who can actually barter and get things for cheap. If you're white, they try really hard to really gouge you for prices, even though it really seems like nothing to us. So this picture particularly is actually special to me because this was the first time we had a very tight-knit group of kids who were very close to each other and a little bit cliquey. and sort of left us out a little bit at first. And this is the first time that they approached the leaders and asked us for a group picture with them. And so my heart sort of skips a beat when I see this, because it's the first time that I realized they were starting to let us in to their hearts. Our next slide is an orphan. We went on day 4 to an orphanage to donate all of the items that we bought on day 3 at the market. So bags of rice and backpacks, broken backpacks sometimes, uniforms, hammocks. We brought a whole bunch of the stuff that we bought, and we donated it to them. One thing that really got me about the orphanage is that these kids have no parents and no families, and I expected it to be a very emotional day for me. But I didn't feel sad for them, because they were happier and had more than most of the kids that were just living outside our guest house. The kids that lived in the alley, who, you smelled them before you saw them sometimes. And this orphanage actually gave me a lot of hope, and I felt happy there. I felt like these kids were very blessed for what they did have. Day 5, we went to the zoo, where the animals get out. This isn't a terribly, fancy professional photography type of picture, but this is my most memorable moment at the zoo, because there was a brawling set of ox or buffalo back there, and they were locking horns and very mad. And we decided to take a picture in front of it because we had to. And one of them approached us from behind and put its horns between the wee little strands of barbed wire between us and them, and got stuck. So he just, in an irritated fashion, turned his head just slightly, and boing, the barbed wire went without even trying or affecting this giant beast. And so I said, "Time to go, kids." This was my most memorable moment at the zoo. The next day was our graduation day for English camp. It was the hardest day for me because I had to say goodbye to my kids. At this point, like Wendy said, we had fallen in love with them, and had to say goodbye. And what this picture sort of reminds me of is a fantastic moment that I had. Bill told us when we were there, these people don't touch, don't hug them. Try telling me not to hug somebody. It's almost impossible, but I did. I kept my hands to myself. That young man with the gray sweatshirt next to me, in the middle there, he came running up to me, and his face was just red, and he was just bawling, and he threw his arms around me and hugged me and said, "I love you forever. I'll miss you." And that just sort of was started the chain of all of our kids, these exclusive, cliquey, teenage, trendy kids who don't hug people apparently, came up and just loved on every one of us, of the 4 of their leaders who are here today. And it just melted my heart that for a society who doesn't touch and show physical affection like that, they really, really loved us just as much as we loved them. So after English camp was over, we ended up going to Siem Reap, which is about 6 hours away by bus. And we went to some of the temples. And we spent an entire day, actually, traveling through Buddhist temples that are still active, and some are ruins and some are not. And there were shrines all over the place, and offerings of like gold and clothing and flowers and all this. It was such an intense sight to see, and we made sure that we were spiritually prepared before we went into there, because we knew that it was going to be a battleground. My favorite picture of the day is this boy, and I mean, why not? Look at him. He's just so cute. The buildings there are just absolutely huge, like massive, 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 and I couldn't believe the construction that went into it, but I had to pick this one because he's cute. And finally, my last slide is these are the hands of 4 of us leaders here, and some family members of theirs that were here as well. So one of our girls, Roat, she wove these bracelets throughout the week, and we watched her do it during English camp, and she gave one to each of us. And that's her hand on top there. And this picture reminds me of the bonds that were formed and the friendships that will last forever. Her hand on top, you'll see there's a red bracelet that she's wearing. And all the kids who were like serious Buddhists at the camp would wear those bracelets. And just yesterday we were chatting on Facebook, me and Rot, and she asked me if I'd come back next year. And I said I want to. I said it would be difficult. I said it would be more expensive and it would be harder to get time off work. But that if God wants me to go, he'll make a way. And she said to me, I will pray to Jesus that you can come again next year. And at the beginning of the entire experience, Bill asked us, why are you here? I didn't exactly know why I was there. I've told my story before. God basically twisted my arm. And I had decided at the beginning that God wanted me there to love people. At the end of the week, he asked us if it was fulfilled. And I fell in love with every child. Every one of my kids, I'll miss them. And I can only pray that I'll see them all in heaven one day. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Praise Team. And I've got a few more people I want to introduce to you that went on the trip. They're going to come up now. And I'm looking, though, for my partner. Has anybody seen Tim? Is Tim around
Right
here?
over here, Steve.
There you are. What you doing back there?
Oh, just brought some stuff back from Cambodia. I was hoping to show you some of it.
Okay.
Up here on the stage.
Oh, what you got?
Oh, man, I got all kinds of stuff. Cambodia is the best place to go to on a mission trip, Steve. I'm telling you. Check this out. Look at this. North Face backpack. $12.
Mm-hmm.
Brand new Hollister sweater, white for the winter, $4.
Okay.
All kinds of stuff. Got a new watch.
Mm-hmm.
Got this fancy purse right here.
Got a purse?
Yeah, well, it's for Wendy. It's not for me.
Okay.
Well, if anyone could pull it off, it would be me.
Okay.
Anyways, I got all kinds of stuff. It was just such a fantastic trip.
Oh, wow. Anything else?
Well, the markets are just fantastic, and our dollar goes a long ways. One of our dollars is worth like 4,000 of theirs.
Okay.
So I got this Rolex watch for $10.
And you think that's real?
Oh, absolutely. I asked the guy. I said, "Is this a Rolex watch?" He's like, "Yeah, it is." So I checked it up online. Here, $15,000. There, 2 for $20.
Oh, I just want to tell you, it's fake.
I think you're a little bit jealous, Steve. But next time you go, you can get a Rolex watch. You don't have to be jealous of mine.
Let me see it. It says it's 1:30 in the morning.
Well, it stopped last night. It's one of those wind as you go. So when I fell asleep, it must have stopped.
Okay, that's great. Well, it sounds like you had some great wow moments when you were in Cambodia.
I sure did.
Maybe some of these other people that are up here, our friends, have some wow moments they want to share with us as well.
Absolutely. I'm sure they had some great wow shopping moments as well. Like, Elliot, did you have a great wow shopping moment?
Yeah, the markets were pretty crazy, but my wow moment was the contrasts. Cambodia is a country of contrasts, as you can see from this picture. The streets are filled with motos, but driving beside the inexpensive two-wheeled vehicles and the old beat-up cars are fancy Lexuses and large expensive pickup trucks. The buildings are also very contrasted. There's construction everywhere as the country attempts to recover from the destruction of the genocide. Yet next to all the construction are broken-down buildings and reconstructed shops and houses. The biggest shock, however, came on our walk to breakfast one morning. During the 10-minute walk, we would pass by small shacks in which a good portion of Cambodians would live in, as well as sell their goods out in front. That wasn't the big surprise, though. Tucked in behind these rusty tin shacks was a large, gated-off, extravagant villa. When I think of Cambodia, I think of the contrasts.
Wow, thanks, Elliot.
The wow moment for me is pictured in this. It's to see the children so beautiful and full of life. These children you see are some of the many children we met who lived along the route, as Elliot mentioned, on our walk to our meals each day. They would run out and say, hello, hello, and once they started, they just loved to practice their hello with us and their smiles. And whenever a camera came out, there were a lot of willing models that they loved to have their picture taken. In the picture, they're playing marbles in a little alley. And another day, they were playing kick the can with a broken flip-flop. They have so little, but are so happy and full of life. And the same was true of many of the students that we taught in English camp. Many drove over an hour on their motos to get to camp or pedaled miles on their bikes. But they were so happy to be there and shared with us an outlook on life that goes way beyond our affluent North American life.
Yes. Brian, was your favorite moment the night markets?
No. But it was a good time at night market. But a wow or a moving moment for me was we were at the orphanage. As Jackie said, we went to an orphanage, and the children up there are very happy. And I remember one little girl, just a little tiny girl, and I give her a high five, and she big grin on her. But those children, when I left, I felt sad because we're going back to our families and nice homes and so on. And I think we have to remember they still have needs, and we have to remember that and support those ministries that are there on the ground. It's okay to go for half a day and interact with them, but we still have to remember the rest of the year that they have needs.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Brian. Alyssa.
So my moment was the water park. So we went there day 2, the first Tuesday back. And so there was no safety regulations at all, like zip. So the kids were going, there's so many ways to go down the simple 3 slides. It was just like a little bump. You can go backwards, forwards, upside down, sideways, on top of each other. Adrienne and I went down on Jody like a toboggan, which was hilarious. And so then you crashed in this little pool, and then you hit like stairs if there wasn't people to stop you because there was just a really shallow little pool. So then it was just like a really wow moment that they were having so much fun with like a simple slide and a lot of pain. It was really cool.
We'll have to change the waiver for next year, John. Melanie.
All right. My wow moment is about a guy named Sakaro, and he was part of our green team, and Jackie had mentioned that they're a really close-knit group or whatever. And so on the Monday, when we went to introduce ourselves and stuff, he was wearing like a surgical mask. And okay, I'll move up. So he's wearing a surgical mask, and they often do that either to protect other people from illness if they're a bit sick, or to hide something like that they're self-conscious about. So it turns out Sakara was just really, really shy. So when he went to introduce himself, someone ripped off his mask, and he kind of freaked out, and he like panicked. He ran out of the room, went and put a new one on because it got broken. And so, yeah, he was just really, really self-conscious. So on the Wednesday when we were coming back from the market, he was riding on his moto next to our bus. So I was trying to get a picture of him. And right away, like, he put his finger up and he pulled down his mask so I could take a picture of him full face. And it just meant, like, that he was just starting to trust us. So it's just a really good wow moment for us.
Yeah, thanks, Mel. Jen.
My overall wow moment was how God connected our teaching group with this close-knit group of friends. And it was just a perfect fit. They were crazy like us, and they were just great kids. This is one of our students. This is Rita, and this is a day at the orphanage. And when we arrived, the little kids just sort of swarmed him, and he just embraced these kids. He walked with them. He held their hands. He looked at their work. He was just so soft-hearted with them, and it just really hit me and reminded me of Paul's verse to Timothy about not having people look down on you because you're young. And this kid has so much potential.
Well, thanks, team, for sharing your wow moments.
Good job. Well, that's amazing, Tim. It looks like a lot of our group struggled with or experienced a lot of culture shock when they were there.
Yeah, culture shock. Culture shock. Hang on. I think that's the name of a cologne I got at the Russian market for only $2.
Get away from me. No.
Smells terrific.
No, that's not the culture shock.
It's actually an imitation of channel number 5.
Okay, just have a seat here, and let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
You know, the culture shock I'm talking about here, Tim, is when we went, and it was just so strange and different. Do you remember, for example, just the things that we saw, the traffic. It was like playing chicken, 200 times just on the way from our guest house to the church. It was unbelievable when we had the smells, open sewers and curry. Do you remember that?
Oh, it was a terrible smell.
And then there was the food. The food was so different. We weren't used to it, and it looked a little weird. And there was a lot of culture shock. And when we first got there, I think we were thinking, what were we doing here? But it wasn't until English camp started and we got to know our students that all of a sudden we realized afresh the reason why we came to Cambodia.
What do you mean the reason we went?
The reason why we went. To get to know the
peeper?
The people.
The people.
We went there to get to know the Cambodian people and
Right.
to love them and care about them and to share Jesus Christ with them with the
Yes.
context of knowing and loving and caring. We want to take seriously here at Gateway Church Jesus' last words. He said, go into the whole world. He said, and make disciples. And he says, baptize them. And we're going to have a baptism service later today. And he also said that we need to teach people about what the things that Jesus said are true and right. You know, and there's a title for that. Do you know what that verse is called?
No, what's it called?
It's called the Great Commission. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's where Jesus says, go, and I'm going to give you my Holy Spirit, and that Spirit's power will enable you to go and be my witnesses all over the world.
Huh. So what you're saying is the reason we went to Cambodia is to meet the people.
That's right.
To tell them about Jesus.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, well, we did that, right? But what about all the other cool things? Like, what about the markets? What about the water slides and the zoo? And what about this great new 5G iPhone that I got at the market for $18?
Please tell me you don't think that's real.
Oh, it's real. I asked the guy, I said, this real iPhone? And he said, same.
Yeah. What he actually said was same, but different. And what that means is it looks the same, but it's not a real iPhone.
Well, I'm hooking it up to my Rogers account now, but the battery keeps falling out. So I'm going to bring it to the Mac store. They're going to give me a new one, and everything will be all good.
You know what? Good luck with that. I hope that goes well for you.
Thank you.
You know, here at Gateway, when we talk about the Great Commission and when we talk about building relationships with people all over the world and getting to know them, there are three things that we want to stress again and again and again so that every person here can consider doing those three things. What do you think the first one is?
I would say that the first thing to remember for a mission trip is to barter. Always barter.
What are you talking about?
Well, when we got there, the missionary bill said, do not accept the asking price. They'll usually come down a third to a half. So always remember, not full price, barter.
Are you serious? Mm-hmm. No, the first word, Tim, is the word pray. We want to ask everybody to consider praying for missionaries and for missions and for people all over the world. You know, there's this verse in there in the Bible where the Apostle Paul says, please pray for me, he says this to the church in Ephesians, that I would fearlessly declare the gospel wherever I am. And that's what we want to do, is we want to pray. We want to pray for our missionaries. Did you know that Bill and Alana Labazu and our missionaries, the Browns in Ecuador and the Dubays in Africa, and even our Canadian missionaries, we've got Erica Davies in Quebec, and we've got the Broughtons who work here, and we've got the Lions. These people send us their prayer requests regularly and really asking us to hold them up in prayer. Did you know that?
I did not know that. So how would we know what their prayer requests are?
Well, here's how it works. There's a guy here at Gateway called Tony Knight, and he puts an email out every single week, and that email includes prayer requests of our missionaries as well as other needs in the church family. He sends that out to every small church leader. They print it off for every person in their small church, and then they spend a little bit of time when they meet praying for our missionaries so that they can be supported just as the Bible says.
Yeah, you know what? It seemed like Bill and Alana had a pretty hard ministry. I could see how they need that prayer.
Absolutely. It's really, really tough. And so we've got to make this a priority. And then what can happen, which is cool, is that you can take that sheet home with you and you can pray individually or with your family all week long.
Wow. So you could have like hundreds of people praying for them.
Absolutely. And you know, that's just such a critical thing, is that we are supporting people in prayer. So that's the first word.
Okay.
What do you think the second might be?
I would say the second thing is to give.
Hey, you got it right. Let's give them a hand, everybody. You got it. Good. Now, what kind of giving?
Well, when I went, I made sure I went to the dollar store. I got Canada pencils, pins, stickers, so that I could give them to the students I met at English camp. That was great. When we went to the orphanage, I gave some to them because I really wanted them to have a lasting memento of me so they'd remember how great of a guy I am.
Oh, dear. That's not the kind of giving I had in mind. I was talking about giving regularly and generously to what we call here at Gateway the Global Advance Fund.
The Global Advanced Fund?
Yeah, the Global Advance Fund is a fund that we've created that all Alliance churches give to, and they support our missionaries so that they can do ministry. You know, the Labazus, this is what pays for their salary and for their ministry costs and for sending them there and back. It's really critical that we support the Global Advance Fund generously so that they can do that ministry.
Wow. Well, I'm a little bit embarrassed to admit, but I kind of spent all my money on souvenirs. Do you think they could use a Element hat?
Probably not.
No?
What I would suggest, Tim, is next time, don't spend everything God gives you. Take a generous portion of what God has given you right off the top, whatever you've decided with Him, and I want you to suggest, or I want to suggest that you give to your local church, and always remember to give a portion to the Global Advance Fund to support our missionaries. Does that sound like a good idea?
Yeah, I think I do that. I can pray, and I can Give.
And you know, the Bible says here in Colossians or 2 Corinthians that God is powerful, and He can support you and help you to give, so that you will abound in every good work as you give generously. He's able to take care of your needs, so you don't have to worry about that.
Right.
So, what do we have so far?
So we have pray, we have give, and number 3.
What's number 3? The number 3 is the word go.
Go.
You know what? What's the first word of the Great Commission? It's go. And, you know, we can all pray and we can all give. And because of the miracle of modern transportation now, all of us, I think, can really consider going at some point across the world to do a missions trip. I think that's really possible.
Yeah, but I can see how that worked. But wouldn't the missionaries just rather have the money you'd spend on an air ticket and a real Rolex and an iPhone?
Well, it's a fake. No, you know, you might think so. But really, when you talk to Bill and Labazu, they need us to go. You see, what happens is they invite these university students to come, and they want to learn English from people who speak English fluently. That's like you and me. Every one of us that goes means that they can invite 3 university students. Some of them are Christians, and others are non-Christians, to come and put them together and teach them about Christ and help them to grow in their relationship. We want to see that fringe people will become part of a church, and those people that begin coming to church will belong and begin to believe and trust Christ, so that we'll know those people forever and ever. And those relationships that we develop, they'll never end if those people come to know Jesus, because they're going to heaven with us.
All right, wow. So that means that maybe next year we can take 600 people from Gateway.
Hey, well, they probably couldn't handle 600 all at once, but we could send another 20 people. In fact, we're prayerfully considering sending 20 people for the next 5 years. Don't you think we could do that? Maybe not 25, maybe 20, maybe 30, maybe 40. Who knows how many people? I believe right now, even as we're speaking about it, Tim, that the hair on the back of somebody's neck is starting to rise up, and they're feeling a call of the Holy Spirit in some way, a compelling feeling. Maybe their heart is beginning to beat with love for Cambodian people as we're speaking now. It's possible, and God can provide.
Yeah, that's right. I think He could. Well, I'll tell you what. The first person who signs up, you're going to get a slightly functional iPhone.
Wow, isn't that generous of you? Yeah. That's really nice.
And I'll let you know, the second person will get a magic ring.
A magic ring?
Yeah. Whenever I put it on, it turns my finger green.
Oh, my goodness. I think you should get rid of that. Well, Tim, we've had some amazing experiences and met some amazing people, and we've got some folks now that are going to tell us about the people they met.
Absolutely.
All right, let's hear from them.
Marina.
Hi. I met this young man. He was in my group. His name is Rashid. He always had a smile on his face. He was always pleasant. He was orphaned when he was 4 years old, lived with his aunt and uncle, and he could not afford to finish high school, but yet he had high dreams of going into marketing, and he has faith in the Lord, and he is just amazing.
Yeah, thanks for that. Mr. Jody.
I got to be honest with you guys. The first service, I sort of held back. I was afraid to let anybody in. The young lady's name is Kim, and the blonde-haired girl is Jessica. Kim was the very first student who asked me to sit with her on lunch. She introduced me to her 2 little sisters. She took a week off work to come spend time with me. These kids put more into knowing me than I ever put into knowing them. They've studied for years to learn how to speak English. I didn't study one day how to learn Khmer. In my 2 sentences, I said I felt like it was a reunion of Christ's family. I was proud to say that Kim's my sister.
Thanks, Jody. Janet, was there someone special that you met?
Absolutely. This young lady, I only had the opportunity to spend 1 day with, and she impacted me so greatly. The first thing she said to me was, "Why are you here?" And I gave her my answer and explained. And then we went on a bus trip, and I sat with her both there and on the way back. And she gave me a personal tour of the city, telling me the sites that were important to her. We passed her church, which is a Buddhist church. And I said, "Do your parents know you're here?" "Oh, absolutely," she said. "They want me to experience everything I can in life." She also wants to be an ESL teacher. And I just feel that Cambodia is waiting for us to come. Now is the time. They want a new Cambodia.
A Christian Cambodia.
So this is a picture of me and my friend Sunshine, who I met actually before English Camp even started. She wasn't in my group, but like I said, I met her on the Sunday before at the church service because she attends the church that we went to. And what really got me about her is that she was so like super friendly and open and accepting and not like judgmental at all of us. And actually before she even knew my name, Alyssa and I sat with her, and she translated the whole service for us without even knowing our names yet. It was really hard to leave her and all the other people I met. So, yeah, I can't wait to go back and see them all.
Yeah, she was a very special person. And next year, I hope you can spend all summer with her. Yes. Perfect. Thank you guys for sharing.
Thank you. And thank you, Tim. At this time, I'm just going to introduce you to one more person. The oldest member of our team, Ron, is going to come up at this time. And while he comes up, I just want to mention a couple of announcements, things that we can pray about and be aware of. Just a couple of things. First of all, our children's ministry is I think it's not an overstatement to say we're in desperate need of volunteers in our children's ministry for Sunday morning. And so please consider volunteering for that. And you can call the church office, and we would love to walk with you in identifying how you could serve. We also want you to pray for Selena McNeil. Those of you who know Selena probably also know that her mom passed away this week. Would you please keep the family in your prayers, and let's see if we can't reach out to Selena and her family at this time. And then finally, next week there's going to be a very special event. It's our Fall Fun Day. And we're going to have a lot of things going on. It's going to start at 10 a.m., so don't show up at 9:15 or at 11:15, but show up at 10. Bring your friends. You know, mission starts at home, and this is a great opportunity just to bring people to come to church and to be involved in fun and games, and it's going to be for the whole family, and I know that everybody's going to have a good time. So please make a point of being here next week at 10 o'clock. And what we would love for you to do is sign up as you leave the cafe. There's a sign up. There's sign up for the potluck, and we need your help in that regard. And there's also sign up for cleanup and for cleanup as well as for setup. And we really need volunteers next Sunday. So please just think about this as an opportunity for you to invite your friends and for you to serve as well. Well, here we've got Ron who came, and Ron is the father of Cindy Park and the grandfather of Elliot. And Ron is going to talk to us a little bit just about some of his favorite moments.
All right. The first picture I have here is the group of us before we left on the trip in front of the church here. And the reason I chose this as a favorite picture is that before we started the training and the trip itself, most of those people were complete strangers to me. But strangers are only friends you've never met yet. And by the time we were finished with the training and the trip, I consider these very, very close friends of mine now. The next picture, yes. I don't want to make fun of the Cambodians. They are trying desperately to repair their country and rebuild it, but they don't have the tools, they don't have the manpower, and there's no electrical code there. This is a typical hydro pole, and I don't see any insulators on it, masses of wires. Nobody seems to die from it, but it boggled my mind. I hope there are no electrical inspectors in here. If there is, just close your eyes. The next picture, this is the street beside or in front of our guest house that we walked 3 times a day for meals at the men's residence. And the people live in what we would consider a shack. Because they have no work, they're going to be sitting around anyway, so they put a table out and get some fresh food or used clothing or vegetables or cook some food and try and sell it to people so that they can make a few bucks and keep body and soul together. The next picture, this is some of the things that they sell. Here's some fresh fish. This should really be a video because most of those fish were flopping around. They were that fresh. But I was quite impressed with the neatness of displaying their wares. They're really trying hard, and I give them all the credit in the world. The next picture, me. I'm a foodie, and this is some of the delicious food that the ladies of the church prepared for us 3 times a day. I just loved it. I was going back for seconds every time, I think. It's an experience. I love tasting different food, and this was an experience for me. The next picture, this is a picture of Elliot and part of his group teaching them. Now, I I know that pride is one of the 7 deadly sins. So I do confess to you, Steve, and to the congregation, I was very proud of my grandson. He adapted so well, the kids just swarmed him, and he loved them, and did a great job of teaching. And I just can't get over how he matured in 2 weeks. I was so proud of him. The next picture, this was the closing ceremony. 2 of my students who were broken up were crying because it was so sad. They were singing the song of farewell, we must leave you now, we hope to see you again, that sort of thing. And I was crying with them. And again, you can see we're not supposed to hug the Cambodians. It's against their culture, but there's no way I couldn't just hug these kids. And I really appreciated them. The next picture, yeah, it wasn't all work and no play. Here they are playing Uno, getting to know each other and enjoying the time together. This is part of the teaching process, is to play games with them. The next picture, here's some more of my pride. I don't imagine it happens very often. I'm sure it's not a record, but 3 generations on the same mission trip. I couldn't help but pick this as one of my favorite shots. The next picture is last.
That's it. Thank you, Ron. I just wanted to say, yes, let's clap. I wanted to end with you, Ron, because you, as a youngster of 83 years old, were the one who was probably the most of a trooper out of all of us. Us younger ones were leaning against pillars and sitting down at every chance, and you just kept on trucking, and you just were such an example to all of us. Some of you don't know this, but Ron's wife passed away 3 months ago. And due to your age and due to, that fact of your loss, you would have had every opportunity to just bow out and say the timing isn't good. And, many of you are maybe saying, well, I can't go because of this reason, or I can't go on missions, or I can't do it because of this or that. Maybe it's finances, or maybe it's your health or other things. And I just want to challenge you that maybe you can. And this guy right here is a great example of somebody who didn't say no to God's call. And we're just so grateful that you were with us. We love you. Thanks, pal.
Thank you.